What's up, YouTube fam? Welcome back to the channel. We have a big week coming up with us. A lot of big stocks that are going to be reporting earnings. So I figured now would be a good time to talk about the best stocks to sell options on over the next 2 weeks. So I'll get into it right now. We'll just talk about it very quickly, but really simple. We're going to have some good stocks and, of course, stocks that I believe are small account friendly. So the first one we'll talk about is going to be Shopify, and this is just one of my favorite stocks in the world. I just think it's a company that no one is competing with. They're just growing at a very fast pace, and ultimately just great premiums, obviously going into an earnings week. So we'll pull up real quick and I'll talk about which play I would take. So obviously we would want to sell options that are going to be expiring this week to get the best bang for our buck. And ultimately, all right, we want to look for things that give us some sort of protection. So in this case, the strike price I would most likely elect would be something like, maybe right below this gap. Obviously, if you want to get really risky, you can get somewhere in this. So I would say anywhere between the 111 or the 110 is a put that I would definitely be interested in selling this week going into earnings. And the next stock that I really like, or the two stocks we're talking about, will be DoorDash and Lyft, right? Just because, again, these are companies that have just been doing a good job and are growing. So again, DoorDash, first we'll look at it, right? And notice again, when you have earnings week, what makes it so special is the fact that the premiums are jacked up. And it's really the best of all worlds because you're getting the ability to buy great companies, sell options on great companies while having high premiums. You don't get that regular times because you either have to sell options on risky stocks to get good premiums, or you just have to deal with lower premiums. So in this case, right, it's very hard to find a good price on a chart in terms of a strike that would be safer, right? That's always the risk of buying something that's trending up. But I would look at something like the 190, which is still going to give you great premium. Obviously, if you want to go lower and be safer, you can go in the 180 range, which would bring you all the way down here. But obviously, we know earnings has the ability to really drop something, 30%, 15%. But ultimately, we are going to be selling puts, not selling calls. Obviously, if you have shares already and you want to sell calls, you can. I just always find selling calls to be a little bit more risky than selling puts on great stocks. Another one, now this one's going to be really small account friendly, is going to be Lyft. Okay, so if we pull up Lyft, we'll pull up the chart. And notice how all of these are companies that seem to be doing well, right? Their stocks are in a way either rising or at least, consolidating. Typically not something trending down. Obviously, Lyft overall has not been the best stock since it opened. But right now it does look like we're at a position where it could easily be bottoming out. Again, that's not me saying it did bottom out, but it could be. So we'll pull up again. Now, obviously, these premiums are a lot cheaper because the stock is cheaper, right? Like obviously, DoorDash and Shopify, you really can only afford to buy one share for $10,000 or between 10 and 20,000. Where here you can go 10, or if we're going to compare it to how much one share of DoorDash is, you're looking at these types of premiums. Obviously, if you want to be a little safer, go a little lower. The next one, this is probably my favorite stock in the whole market, would be Robinhood. It's just been on such a tear. I mean, it's I've been saying that it's a good buy since $17. Now that's not me bragging because I didn't even buy it, but I've been seeing that it was a good buy, and in my opinion has been a good buy since it's been all the way down here. And I still think it's a good buy just because I don't believe we're not even at where it IPO'd, and it still, in my opinion, will eventually get to all-time highs, if not sooner than later. And again, obviously, being that earnings are this week, we know that the premiums are going to be jacked up. So it just makes it overall just a great stock. And obviously, the most important is that it's a stock that you would genuinely love to be holding. Now, something I would stay away from would be CVS, just because, I don't want to have a part of CVS. I don't want to have a part of Walgreens. You look at this chart, and you look at where it's gone since, 2015. So basically 10 years now, it's just down, right? So if I was to sell puts and earnings sent it lower, it's just not something I'd be comfortable holding. Now, I would say next to Robinhood and Shopify, another one of the best stocks. I don't know how this happened. I don't know why it became a line. Oh, I guess I clicked the wrong one. Oh no, what the heck did I do? Oh, here we go. So next to Shopify and Robinhood, Reddit also has just been absolutely on a tear. One of the best stocks I've ever seen perform. I don't know what it is about Reddit that makes it do so well, but obviously it's just been on an incredible tear. And as you can imagine, the premiums are through the roof. Obviously a little more expensive, but these are arguably the best premiums I've ever seen. Something like this honestly has me tempted to just close out my TQQQ positions and sell options on Reddit. I mean, this week would be the type of week that I would consider. Obviously, TQQQ is the strategy I intend to run, but Shopify, Robinhood, and Reddit are like literally my favorite stocks in the market. So if I was ever going to consider closing this out temporarily to sell options on something, it would be for these two. The next one, which again is another one of my favorite stocks. This is really, a week that should be heaven for me, but my account is a little small for a lot of these stocks. But Coinbase, obviously you guys know I was in Con for months, but naturally if you could afford it, you're always going to rather be in the real stock as opposed to being in the leveraged ETF ticker. With that being said, Coinbase, absolutely another incredible stock that I would definitely sell options on this week for earnings. So notice how, we're looking at things that are really trending up, right? We're avoiding something like CVS. We're avoiding stuff like Walgreens, which I don't know if it has earnings this week. And we're looking for things that are trending, things that, seem to be doing well, seem to be heading in the right direction. So another one worth looking at, in my opinion, will be DraftKings, which, don't be confused. Obviously, we have the Super Bowl today, but this will not be on the earnings for this quarter. It'll be for next. And if we go and look at the premiums, again, they're always just going to be much higher. But then the next thing we want to look at is the DraftKings chart. Is it trending up? To be honest, yeah. I mean, from where it was in 2021, it bottomed at 11. And now the last couple months, a couple of years, it has been in the right direction. And this is what you want to be looking for in a chart, right? Obviously, you wouldn't wanted to have bought up here. Obviously, trending up, you're never going to know where the top is or the bottom. But seeing something like this where it bottomed out and now it's heading in that direction, you only really want to focus on where it's going in the immediate term. And in the immediate term, it does seem to be going the right way. Roku is another one that's worth looking at. Even Wynn Las Vegas, from what I've heard and what I've seen, there's really no casino in Vegas that brings to the table what the Wynn brings. And to my knowledge, it's a very profitable casino every single year. Now, obviously, the premiums aren't as high as these other stocks, but, Wynn Las Vegas is a stock that I ultimately, can basically almost guarantee is going to always be a decent company. Now, obviously, this chart is not the best chart in the planet, but I don't see it really going down to zero. It's at this point, I do think it's in a good position, but probably not a stock. Honestly, I'd probably scratch that. It's probably not a stock I'd want to sell options on at the moment, truthfully. Roku will be the last one I'll look at, and we'll see what we got. We'll just look at the chart real quick, and then we'll look at the premiums. So yeah, Roku, I mean, listen, this is obviously not a trending up by any means, but this definitely looks, just based on this chart pattern, that it could be easily bottoming out. So it's definitely something I would trust. I'd feel safer selling puts on. And yeah, these premiums are obviously through the roof, which, again, if you look at trying to sell options on Roku and it's not earnings season, you are just not going to get, these types of premiums. And another one I just saw, which I didn't realize was even here this week, Airbnb, just another stock that I know people love to trade. And if we look at the chart, let's see. Yeah, I mean, listen, this isn't really an uptrend or a downtrend. Since it IPO'd, it bottomed, and now it's kind of just in this range, which this isn't terrible. For an option seller, you don't mind a range. Matter of fact, you actually like the range, right? Because truth be told, as an option seller, we don't ever want to see it go up too much or down too much. So Airbnb is another great stock that I would definitely consider selling options on for this week. And then going into next week, we have Baidu, but really nothing else I'm so interested in. Carvana, not really. Venmo, nothing really. Maybe Wayfair, but nah, it's been down. If anything, XYZ would probably be the only stock that I would consider for next week. Of course, Thames has been, if you've seen, Nancy Pelosi bought it, and it's only been going up ever since. I guess I'll show you guys the chart just so you can see it. Right, ever since Nancy bought it, it's just been on a tear. But I probably still would stay away from it just because of the risk. I mean, obviously you can trust Nancy, but you never know when she's going to sell. So I'd probably stay away. With that being said, Rivian, maybe. Dropbox, maybe. I would have to look at these again more next week. Oklo has been on an absolute tear. But, you'd have to sell 2 weeks out because the earnings isn't until after close Friday. So, yeah, I mean, really this week is the week that is going to be the big dogs, right? In my opinion, some of the best stocks really out there are going to be reporting earnings. So if you have the money and you want to sell puts on high quality names where you're going to get good premiums, and worst case, you're stuck holding shares like Shopify, Robinhood, Reddit, Coinbase, DraftKings, Airbnb, Roku at this moment, then this should be the week that you really should capitalize. This week should be in a lot of ways like heaven for you guys. So I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you learned a lot. I hope you're able to capitalize on some of these stocks that are reporting earnings over the next week, because it should be a fun one. In my opinion, this is even better than last week, or when was it, 2 weeks ago, when we had Tesla, Apple, Facebook. I mean, those are obviously some of the biggest and best companies as well, but this is really the sector. These are really the stocks that I love. If you've been following me, you would know I've talked all about Shopify. I've traded Shopify last earnings. Robinhood, Reddit, I've just talked about these, over the last couple months. It's just great companies. And of course, Coinbase has been a very familiar name with us as well. So I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you're able to capitalize on some of these stocks. I hope you're ready to have an amazing week. Have a great Sunday. This video is being recorded about 2 hours before the Super Bowl. So I hope you enjoy the Super Bowl. I hope the team you're rooting for wins. And make sure, again, to have a great rest of your night. And I will see you guys in the next video.